Welcome to Rich in Blockchain. Hey guys, today is 13th of September 2022. We are just having a recap or a look at BTC price and also the rest of the altcoins. So getting on ahead, what we're looking at the moment is BTC breaking out from yesterday, as I said, but just trading sideways at the moment from this temporary or medium term downtrend line. So having a look at it on the shorter time frame, which is the hourly, I'm a bit concerned at the moment and do think that BTC is going to possibly come back and retest this once a resistance downtrend line, which is now support. So also looking as well, we can see that starting to form a bearish divergence on the hourly here. So it has been overbought, it should come back down and retest. So also looking at the 4 hourly as well, we can tell that it's been overbought, trading above the 70 RSI. Also looking at the MACD, you can clearly tell that's looking to reverse. Same with the 8 hourly as well, above the 70. I think the 12 hourly is probably the same as well. No, 12 hourly, it got rejected at the 70. So in my opinion, in the coming days, I'm going to have BTC look to retest. So if it retests, as I said from yesterday as well, let me just shrink this down a bit. What may happen with BTC, looking at the 4 hourly, is that it can possibly come back down, and what we would want, if we want to continue on with a bullish trend, is come back down to retest this downtrend here, which is now support, and then we would bounce up and go into the next form of resistance area, which is that $24,000 range. Because if we look at the past, we keep rephrasing over and again, previous resistance becomes support and previous support becomes a resistance. So looking here, last time we also had a hard time also breaking past this point here, because if we were to also go further back, we can see that this is also a W pattern. So this will also be the top of this double bottom as well. And then also going back here, there was a bit of a trade zone here. So here right now will be a heavy resistance zone. So what do I think may happen? In my opinion, I do think that we are going to come back down and possibly retest this zone in the coming days. And what may happen is I'm hoping that we do bounce off here and continue on up. But because the macroeconomics aren't looking great still at the moment, we may possibly come back down, retest this zone here, break through, face this resistance again, and come back down to the bottom. But I have to wait to see what the CPI data is on Wednesday. So having a look at ETH has pretty much broken through the support line that we were drawing yesterday. So not yesterday, but looking back in the past, as I said, from November last year, it has finally decided to break out, but it's retesting this downwards trend line at the moment. So as I said, if it doesn't hold and if it continues on downwards, then we're looking likely to break down and retest this upwards trend line. So in my opinion, this rising wedge that we have here is still in play, and the target point, as I said, from that breakout zone will most likely come back if we were to move to the side and retest this area here, because it's still in play, ranging bound. That $1,500 mark. But if that, as I said, if that doesn't hold from the past, we continually break down, come back here, retest this line here, which is kind of what we're doing at the moment, break further down, and we do break out and touch, we can possibly be looking at the previous. So let me change it to the previous points. So most likely be at that $1,400 to $1,500 range for ETH before we do possibly come back down to one of its lowest points at the $1,100 range. So that's just looking at ETH. And as you can see here, looking on the 8 hourly, the MACD has started crossing over. The 12 hourly is not showing bullish signs at all. The daily is also starting to reverse on the MACD as well. And as I said, with what happens with cryptos, it's generally a buy the rumor, sell the news type of strategy. So if ETH can hold and continue on up here, once we are retesting this downwards trend line, which is in our support, and hopefully we do break up, then it'll be bullish for the market for ETH. But in my opinion, with what I've seen in the past, it will most likely be bearish. Looking at BNB, pretty much still holding well. It's still just trading sideways. As I said yesterday, possible scenario is this bit here. Still that rising wedge. We're just trading sideways. But in my opinion, we might break downwards from here, given that BTC is also not looking great as well. But if we do hold and we do retest this support line and continue on up, it'll be good, because we will be pretty much approaching the apex of this ascending triangle, which the next, as I said, the next target zone would be that $326 range. Looking at ADA at the moment, still range bound, nothing too interesting at the moment. But the great thing about it is it's broken above the 50 moving average, and looking at the super guppy, we can clearly see that the color has changed, which means that's in a neutral position, no longer being bearish. So what may happen is we can start moving up, but given time frame and what BTC is going through, only time can tell. Looking at XRP, pretty much still range bound, above that 50 moving average on the daily. Nothing too interesting on that. As I said, once we start breaking through and retest this zone here at that 40 cent mark, then we'll know more. Bit of a bullish price action on Solana finally, broken above the 50 moving average on the daily. Yeah, I mean, the chart looks a bit more bullish than the others, but as I said, still range bound until we actually break past this $55 mark. I wouldn't be too bullish on it yet. Looking at Matic, looking very, very similar to the Binance chart. Just consolidating, moving upwards, not too much price action going on until we actually break past this $1 mark. So that is when I'll probably be placing my longs anyway if I decide to actually trade Matic. Looking at Chainlink, same again, trading sideways, retesting this 50 moving average on the daily. Nothing too much on that one. Now looking at NIA, so I'm just adding in NIA because I got recommended to have a look at their chart as well. And from what I did yesterday when I started looking at it, we can see that it's touching these support trend lines now, which is one of the long-term ones from the start. So I just drew that one as close as possible, and we can see that NIA is retesting and it has pretty much bottomed out each of these areas so far. So two things may happen. We may come back down and retest it and break through and form a newer low from that. But that low will most likely be at that 167 range. But in my opinion, that won't most likely happen. Next, what may happen would be come back here, retest, and bounce back up to retest a resistance zone, which is a 680 kind of range. Right. But given that NIA is looking pretty bullish at the moment, trading above the 50 moving average on the daily, plus the super guppy has also turned neutral, what may start happening is we're going to come here and retest this previous support zone, which is at the $6.8 range, and which is also the 0.236 Fibonacci retracement area. So the next resistance will be at that point there. And then from there we may come back down. So we may do this. So we may come up, test that point, come back down, get rejected before we move on up to the next resistance zone, which is one of the golden pocket areas at 3.82, which is also that $9 range. But given that NIA's also got their conference going on at the moment, possibly bullish news for NIA. Looking at VeChain, nothing interesting happening there at the moment, literally just trading sideways. So we won't be having too much of a look at that because it's a bit of a boring chart. As I said, once it starts approaching closer to the apex of this long downwards trend line, and once we actually start breaking past that, then nothing else much. But looking at the monthly, we can see that it's clearly starting to reverse. So if you're looking to buy, you're possibly buying at the bottom for VeChain. Looking at HAPI from yesterday, as I said, between the 830 or 8.29 to the $9 range, it's pretty much trading range. It's come back down to retest this point here, and it's holding on very well. Not too much price action going on at the moment, but it's a good accumulation zone if you want to get into it. Lastly, looking at Luna Classic or Terra Classic, we can see that it's broken down from its head and shoulders, retesting one of the key Fibonacci support zones, and then from there, its last support zone, in my opinion, would be still at this 0.0025 range. And if it does retest that point there, we would have completed our head and shoulders. And from there, I would literally just wait and see what happens with the market. It'll be in a no trade zone. But currently at the moment as well, it's at a no trade zone. One of the best places to take this short would have been when it was trading within the short, or sorry, the neck of the head and shoulders. Because once it breaks the neck, then we would have started making profit. But right now it's too risky, so I wouldn't be trading this at all. But I'm just letting you know that while we have been looking through Terra Classic, we have been actually just been spotting these patterns. So looking at the Bitcoin dominance on the daily, nothing much going on at the moment there, still holding its 41.41% range. Looking at the DXY, we can clearly see that's still moving on downwards to possibly touch this channel. So we're just, as I said from before, we're just waiting for the CPI numbers to also come out tomorrow to see what happens. If the Fed is very hawkish, that means that we can get a bounce from here and move on up, which won't be great for all cryptos, but that's what I'm also seeing happening as well. Macroeconomic wise, the economy is in recession, but we have to wait and see what the Fed decides to do anyway for the US, even though I don't live in the States, but unfortunately the US markets control majority of the world's economy. But yeah, that's all we have time for today, guys. If you guys have any other things you guys want me to look at, please let me know, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Anyway, my name is Rich, and you've been watching Rich in Blockchain. I'll catch you again soon for the next episode. Please remember to like and subscribe. Cheers, and have a good one.